A kiss is still a kiss. A sigh is just a sigh. The fundamental things apply as time goes by. And I got chords all messed up here. Hold on. God damn it, headphones. All right, you come over here, and then that goes there like this. All right. Ah, there. A lot of time went by the time I got that shit straightened out. Ah, here we go. Nolan says same time as my pharmacology class. Decisions. Easy call. What are you going to learn in pharmacology that will come close to being as important as what you're going to learn in here today? Andrew and Cora, Kid Rhino, Anbu, Niall, Spazdev, Slick Rob, Arthur Oink, Andrew, Kellum, Willie Dom. Yeah, we got some notifications out there. Way to go, Susan. It was, again, probably an accident, but... Oh, and I got an idea. I'm going to let just in case notifications did go out, I'm going to let some more people find their way here. Don't let me forget to talk about this, guys. I got what I think will be something fun for kind of livening up the fun we have in the streams as we go. But I want to let some more people get in here, especially the mods, because this may have a direct effect on them. So don't let me forget to talk about that. It shouldn't be a free-for-all Friday thumbnail, Spazdev, is it? They screwed up again? They didn't change it for me? Let me look. They do that a lot. They don't change the thumbnail. No, I don't. I got, I have it as the garbage can shot. It's an old wrestling picture of me after I just wailed the dude with a garbage can. Yo, Curtis, did you love that messed up COVID joke I made last Friday? Yikes. Last Friday gave you have to be more specific for me to remember that many days. You think you have the COVID, Willie? Finally getting over. I'll tell you the toughest thing about mine, and was right from the start, is the fatigue it puts into your system. I did a test today. Now, it was 11 days since I first showed symptoms. So I did a test today because after 10, supposedly, you're good to go out and about. And it showed as a negative, but that's what's still left is that feeling of fatigue it gives you. Feeling a lot better, Dolphin. The basically the remnants I have of the symptoms outside of the fatigue are just as if I'd had a bad flu. You know how you feel after you've had a bad flu, bad cold, something like that. Even after the symptoms are gone, you still just a little bit of head stuffiness, things like that. The very unspecific thing you were going to say. Hi, Chrome. Yeah, let me see if... now, I see Chrome's in. Let me see if any more of the mods get in, because, again, this idea... Well, not only just directly affect them, but I want to get all their opinions on it. I just thought it was something that'll jazz up all the live streams. And I also I'd like to do something. I got looking around, and maybe I'm looking in the wrong places. I like having, and this thing I'm going to talk to you guys about is about the Stream Boss thing here. And I like little doohickeys, doodads like that. No matter what we're talking about, it kind of livens up the events. So I was wondering if there's more things that I can bring into our streams, more plugins. And there's just doesn't seem to be much out there, which I'm really surprised with as popular as streaming is, that there aren't more third-party companies making cool plugins for streams. Josh says, hey, Curtis, can we have you as president right now? I'm hella nervous about the rest of Biden and his presidency. Yeah, I don't blame anybody for being hella nervous. Let me put it that way. I just don't know anymore. The people that we get leading this nation are just so far away from the best and brightest. Chrome says, just watch the final Smash Bros. Presentation early. They just announced Sora from Kingdom Hearts as a character and Doomslayer as a meat. Oh, that's kind of cool. I love Kingdom Hearts. Hey, Wolverine. Hi, Brangley. Gabe says, ran out of toilet paper and started using lettuce leaves. Tomorrow is just the tip of the ice. Oh, the really bad pun one. Tomorrow remains to be seen. Yes, I love terrible puns, especially when you can incorporate a couple of them into one joke. Simping Stan says there's a plug-in for Lab that shows who donated the most money of all time. That's cool. I think here it would be Philip. I think Philip would win that one easy. I was trying to think of more, or not think of, but see if there were more like interactive ones. I also want to check and see if it's possible, and I meant to do this earlier today, and it's been a crazy few days. I want to see if there's a way that I can have two cameras tied into the same stream, so I could have my phone as well. Now I know there is a process I can do already that I can put whatever is on my phone screen onto the stream, but that's really a bulky process. I was hoping there's a more streamlined way to just have it act as another camera. So then as we're talking, and happens so often, I want to make reference to this, that, or the other in the room or in the house, I would have access to do it. Chrome says, you ready for Biden inflation to increase soon? Oh, yes. It's going to. If Biden gets his economic plan, kickbacks to his donors, you'll see economic collapse. That will pass in current form, but a reduced version maybe. That's what I'm thinking too, Chrome. Yeah, the current version won't go, but the something's going to... why do the politicians just... And they try and sell you on this bullshit that, oh, it's going to be a net cost of zero. Anybody that believes that is a fucking moron. Oh, because it's going to bring so many more jobs into the economy, and what we're going to do is we're going to get money from here, we're going to take it from the rich people, and it's not going to cost anybody anything. Bull fucking shit. What's going to happen is you're making pie-in-the-sky promises that you can't keep, just like politicians always do when they want to ram through more of their pet projects. And when it can't be paid for and won't be paid for in the manner that they set up, they'll come get it from the middle class just like they always do. Arthur says, I'm up there. By the way, next post, please. Okay, I'll try and remember to watch for it, Arthur. Rosa says, have you ever been so stubborn in an argument that even though you know you are wrong, you continue to argue on because the person you are arguing against the cunt? Not recently. I've learned my lesson about that. I won't, if I've discovered I'm wrong, I probably won't continue to argue the point. I would probably have to grudgingly acquiesce that I was wrong, but I would continue to try and turn the conversation to where I could point out to the other person that they are indeed a cunt. I guess the best way to put it. This is Kyle. This is what I was talking about. Let's go, Brandon. That lady tried to cover so hard, and it was hilarious. For those of you who don't know what Kyle's talking about, NASCAR race was over the weekend, or the end of last week, whichever. Kid named Brandon won the race. Well, as they're doing the interview with him on the track, people in the stands start the ever-present "Fuck Joe Biden," "Fuck Joe Biden." It's been going on everywhere, sports arena, just every place across the country. You see video of it. So as the chant starts, she goes, "Oh, there you go. They're saying, 'Let's go, Brandon.'" This newscaster, the sports reporter who's interviewing him. Now, I don't even know what to think about that. If she honestly thought of it just off the cuff, I'm like, okay, that's a pretty witty attempt at making a save. You have to realize, even at the time you're saying it, everybody's just going to mock you and make fun of you because it so obviously is not what's being said. But it was a hell of an attempt at a save. I don't think I would have gone for that, because no matter how you slice it, you end up looking pretty stupid for saying that they're saying, "Let's go, Brandon." Yeah, I know. Don't you love that, Timothy? Timothy says, politicians talk about the rich like they're not. Exactly. And you know what kills me too, and I've said this over and over, and this is both sides of the political aisle. How do all these people go into politics with, X amount of net value, whatever it may be, And on these salaries of Congress members end up so wildly, insanely rich. And nobody seems to want to pursue that. Here's Arthur's. We need a revolution. That doesn't mean violence. It just means we need a shift to reclaim our liberty and reinforce our Constitution. That could be accomplished peacefully with secession. That's a tough one, Arthur. I completely get where people are coming from, the secessionists. I really do, given the state of the country. But no matter, fuck off, Chain. No matter how many different ways you slice it, it it's going to complicate things, especially on an international scale, and it could easily open the door for some potential serious consequences for us internationally down the road. It's a tough one. Hey, Zeno, we were just chatting on Zeno and I were just chatting on private messages at the Goose. He says, "Oh, how's your day going? Mine's going great. I'm off this week." Oh, nice. Sad part is my work is going to be busy. Glad I'm off. I used to like that too, Zeno. On those occasions where I could arrange, like when I was working for the sanitation department, get one of those weeks like you get in the fall where everybody's cleaning up their yards and you know it's going to be heavier than shit, and you happen to take that week off for vacation. It's like, yes. And deal with it, substitutes. Chrome says, just remove California and you fix like half the problems the U.S. has. Well, I can't say as I necessarily disagree, knowing how I feel about most of California's politics. Okay, now we've got several of the mods in here. Here's something I wanted to run by you guys. Zeno is Stream Boss. We've always had fun playing with this Stream Boss thing. I got thinking, would it be fun to, and I want to get you guys' take on this, would it be fun to actually add something to it so that every time there's a new Stream Boss, whoever takes over as Stream Boss could name one person in the chat and have them silenced for, 300 seconds, I think it is, for the 5 minutes? Put user in timeout, yeah. The only way I would do that is if people were going to do it with the way I have it intended, as just a fun way of kind of ragging on each other. I don't think we have the type of crew that would try and use that stuff to be actually mean-spirited to others. But I thought that might be fun, and it would make the whole playing the Stream Boss game a little more fun too. So, like, it would be a case of, like, here, where Zeno just became Stream Boss. Now he could come in and put the next post and saying, okay, I'll just pick somebody. Gabe's here. I want Gabe TV silenced for 5 minutes. And then what we would do is Gabe TV would then get final words. So Gabe would be allowed to post once more to, it would say fuck you Zeno or whatever, before he got his 5 minute silencing. I don't know if that sounds like fun or not. Who's ever Stream Boss gets to silence Wolf for like 5 minutes. Interesting. Could be bad, though. Well, that's what I mean, Chrome. It would have to be with everybody with the understanding that it's for fun. If you get silence, it's not actually somebody striking out at you. It's ball busting. Arthur says, if we break government down to as local as possible, that I'm a big supporter of, then you can live in whatever system you want. Your vote would actually count, and you can move to others. I completely agree. I'm a huge supporter of that idea, and it will never get traction because you know what that means, Arthur. To do that, the people who have all the power now would have to be giving up some of that power. Gabe, I was just using you. I just happened to see your name. You're so funny, next family guy. Well, thanks, Kyle. I don't know what. You know what I'll probably do? I'll probably talk to the mods more about it over at the Discord. But it was just something that came to mind, just something to spice things up. Wimatode says, this country operates on a system that expects the people in power to be honest with the people. That's never going to happen. Agreed on both counts. Every politician is corrupt in some way or another. Yeah, I think we've been told, yes. I think when you talk national level politicians, yes. I think to have achieved that level in politics, you had to become corrupt at some level. I agree. That's sad. I mean, that's nothing I take pleasure in agreeing with, but it's true. And it's just, there's no change coming. We can already see, who the likely prospects are for presidential runs in 2024, and it's all going to be the same thing. It's not going to change. You're not going to get a person in there as president who will say, okay, let's start giving power away from the federal government as much as possible, give it down to the states and the localities, let people all live the way they want to live, and the government should just be an overseer of keeping things fair for everybody. That's how it would work. That's how it was actually set up to work. The United States, it was supposed to be individuals by location. But the federal government has gained more and more and more power, and that's why I can't side with the left right now, because it seems like all of their policies are to give the government more power. All right, now let the federal government take over all our health care. Oh, let's have the federal government giving us X amount of dollars per month. All these things that will just ensure that the Fed has you right by the nutsack. Nicholas says, politics is not about the people anymore. True. It's about people trying to boost their own ego and trying to get as rich as possible. I agree 100%, Nicholas, especially on the word ego being in there. Ego was the undoing of Trump. Ego drives the vast majority of politicians. I mean, look at anything. Every decision that's made at any level of the federal government by either side, by people from either side, and tell me that it isn't entirely driven by political expediency. It's not about what's best for people. It's about what will keep my people in power. That's all it's about on both sides. Zeno says World War III would happen if I get to silence someone. All right, maybe it was a bad idea. I was just trying to think of things to spice things up a little bit, but maybe that's not the good one. Arthur says, I mean, we have power over our local level. If they don't allow it, we just secede. They can try to stop us if they dare. We have guns. Next post. I already have convinced a lot of people on this on both sides, left and right. People don't do it because they think it's hopeless. We just have to agree to it more and plan it. Already starting. Oh, well, Arthur, there was just a poll done last week, and it said was it 52%? It was just over 50. It was 52 or 54% of Trump voters are for secession. But it also said 41% of Biden voters were for secession. That's a significant part of the country that fully believes we should be two separate entities. That's amazing. Those numbers are stunning. Because even the Biden voters, that may be a minority, but it is a solid, huge minority. Excuse me. Dragon says, Biden said he wanted to start going to petting zoos. Trump said schools are not petting zoos. That'd be, for Biden to be kind of like sniffing zoos, wouldn't it? Joe Mama-sama says, peaceful divorce. Yeah, well, and a lot of people will counter that with, I'm not saying I necessarily agree with this, but a lot of people would counter that with, and do counter that with, you can't have secession peacefully. It would end up getting violent. There's a case to be made of that being a likelihood, certainly. And the mechanics of it, how would you go about it? And what do we do about, for instance, the military? and the military budget. If you're two separate entities, you're going to have two separate militaries. That's what gets really sketchy, because now, again, I don't know how many of you saw it, but now the Russians are doing major research and just did another test launch of one of their hypersonic missiles. Russia and China both are in the throes of building up militarily. I know a lot of people bitch about our military budget. I think this is the worst time in history you could select to try and start making cuts in our military budget. I'm hoping that a big hunk of that big budget goes towards shit that we'll never even have to know about. Here's hoping. Hey, Wolverine. Brandon says, Biden administration is sponsored by Velcro shoes. The guy's Duracell battery is running on E. Sticky Sauce says there's probably going to be a massive global conflict that ends with a one world government. Let's be honest. Sure, that's a possibility. I wouldn't call that a likelihood. At least not for the near future, the reasonably near future. Right now, you have no side is going to be willing to acquiesce to the other and say, okay, let's just fall under one umbrella without there being just significant amount of planetary devastation. Rosa says, our military budget is literally one of the only parts of the budget that aren't part of the problem. Why are people targeting it so much? I think a lot of, Rosa, is people like to take the easy path, because it's easy to take that big number and go, that's where we're wasting all our money, without the responsibility of saying, well, if you cut that and we can't defend ourselves the way we should, what do we do if there is a worst case scenario? They don't have to think about that, because no, there's not a war going on right now. So as long they can take the high road and say, that's what you should be giving that to poor people, not spending it on military, because they don't have a consequence to face for saying it. It would all be conjecture. Now, if you did cut that military budget and, tensions rise and we get struck by someone, hey, if we were to lose that conflict, or that conflict were to take place because we're seen as weak because of having cut that budget, well, the people that wanted to cut it will then just turn around and say, well, how could we have, in a time like this, how could we have cut the military budget? It's never going to be their fault. They just want to go with whatever. They're the ones who point out problems. They don't have any solutions. Arthur says, yes, two separate militaries. If our country didn't agree on certain actions, it would be an issue anyway. Just operate as an alliance when we agree. That would be an insanely complicated process. I'm not saying it couldn't happen. And we would, I think, as it were taking place, is when our enemies may see us as weakened. Yeah, that I think that would be the biggest difficulty in the whole secessionist movement, is making a clean design for how both countries, all countries that were at one time America, are protected. Nectar says, sup, Curtis, what's your opinion on critical race theory? See, my opinion on that is I believe that history should be taught as history. I don't think it needs to be driven home to people how this particular group was downtrodden and this is what we need to do to make up for it. No, just teach them what happened. And none of it should be ignored. When you teach a child history, you should teach them all about America with all the blemishes and all the warts. I don't think it's for educators to take that next step and say, okay, now this is what we need to do as a country to make up for the things we've done wrong in the past. That's for everyone to decide on their own. That becomes indoctrination. If you want to talk about slavery, it should be explained to the children what went on in slavery and how and how ridiculously devastating it was for people to be treated as less than human, to be treated as property. But taking it any farther than that within the course of curriculum in school, no, I don't believe in that. Gabe says, yesterday I ran out of soap and body wash and all I could find was dish detergent. Then it dawned on me. Oh, God. Chrome says, not going to lie, I do roll my eyes when people jump straight to cessation. It's stupid and short-sighted. A lot of current laws and powers of the government today were never intended by the Founding Fathers. Income tax were deemed unconstitutional and illegal when they first proposed, and they stacked the courts. Yeah, well, see, where I am, Chrome, is I think rather than secession, we owe it to at least take the step of gunning first for what we had talked about earlier, which is bringing as much of the decision making about our lives to the state and local levels. Because I think if that's done properly, I think you would remove the need for secession. And people would then migrate. I mean, you would have a great migration in this country of people that want to live under more conservative values and people that want to live under more California type values. But you're not going to get that because the people who are in charge now at the national level are not going to give up their power. Again, especially with this administration, you see how they're looking to ever expand their fingers into your life, the federal government. They want as much control as possible. Rosa says, the word slave comes from the Slavs who were enslaved by the Ottomans. I didn't know that. White people were the last to start systematic slavery and the first to end it, but they were just the most successful at it. Well put, Rosa. Well put. Chrome says, start getting more involved in government at a local level. They hold a lot more power at local level than you realize. Fix that and the rest falls in line. You're a nation of states, smaller powers. Yeah, I meant to bring that up, Chrome. I'm glad you said that. That's another thing, too. If you do start allowing more decisions to be made on state and local levels, that would naturally inspire more participation in voting at the state and local levels, which is exactly what we need to do. I mean, we know a vast majority of people don't even bother with local elections. They're just not interested. Now, if the people they were electing into those positions had real decision-making power over the things that are important in their lives, you bet people would get more informed. Excuse me. Trevor says the world acts like we haven't been at war with one another for at least the last 4 millennium. Sad but true, Trevor. Joe Mama Sama says, I agree splitting the country should be a last resort, but if one side keeps getting their issues ignored, what are they supposed to do? Well, that's what we could be coming up against. And again, I think there is certainly a middle ground and a potential solution in there in just what we're talking about, in allowing more decision making to be made at state and local levels, but you won't see that happen. I believe, unfortunately, the powers that be in the federal government would rather fight the fight of secession than they would even take the chance on just voluntarily giving up a lot of their power and distributing it back to the people so people can live the way they want to live. There's so many things that they want the federal government to take care of that would be handled better on a local level. Now, we would still have a constitution. So even within, okay, I'm a big Second Amendment proponent, but all that said, you couldn't allow any states, obviously, to just ignore any of the amendments or anything in the Constitution. But as far as concealed carry, things along those lines, that's handled pretty much at a state level now. But whenever people see something going on that they don't personally like, even if it's not in their state, they go crying to, pop a federal government to pass a law to stop that. And instead, you should just go about your business and live somewhere that has the rules in place that you like and let everybody live the way they want. You could even, on a larger scale, even the abortion issue. I know Roe v. Wade is very important to a lot of people. And I'm pro-choice myself. But if you make all of these decisions on a local level, which abortion is, most of the legislation outside of the fact that it is legal by federal mandate, let people live where they want to live with these rules. These are the things that are making us all hate each other. Why would everybody feel the need to hate each other if they can live the way that they want to live? That's my point. Fuck off, train. Chrome says, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, a lot of Trump's base are now running for local offices. True. I'm not American, but from what I can see, they're slowly changing the GOP to a more populist one. I would agree with that, Chrome. Yeah, there are. And, well, that's not a surprise because even for people like me who did vote for Trump, I've told you guys all along, I think he's a buffoon. I've always thought Trump was a buffoon. I don't like him as a person at all. And while there's no politician that I agree with down the line, clearly I was a supporter of more of his positions than I am a supporter of Biden's. So given that I think there are a lot of people like me, it's not surprising that there are politicians like you could even take Ron DeSantis, who, if you look at his policy positions, he's Trump. But he's Trump without the vulgarity. He's Trump without, listen, DeSantis, like all the other politicians, has an ego, but without an ego that orchestrates his every single move like does Trump. And I think you're going to see more, yes, you're seeing more and more politicians of that ilk in the Republican Party. Maxon at the Fort says, whenever I have a bad day, I just say, at least I'm not in Australia. Oh, it's crazy what's going on there. Look at New Zealand. They finally had to give up, which I can't believe that New Zealand didn't realize this was coming. They finally had to give up on that whole concept of zero transmission COVID. That was never going to be effective. And it's not me saying it, was epidemiologists and scientists who told you that from the start with these coronaviruses. You're not going to stop them. You're just not. So what you have to do is learn their particulars and deal with them as best you can. And they were right. I mean, again, I don't know shit. All I know is what I read from people way smarter than me. And epidemiologists were saying that from the beginning. Arthur says, federal government should only protect the Bill of Rights and outlaw things that infringe on life and freedom, murder and slavery. Let local governments assign the rest and leave people alone. Well, again, you're preaching to the choir there, Arthur. I've been saying that for years. And instead, we're going the exact opposite way when you look at it. It seems like every year we hand over more and more power and authority to the federal government. And I just don't see how that works out well for anybody. Jake says, unfortunately, so many people vote based on the personality of the candidate instead of their policies. Ain't that the truth, Jake? That goes on all the time. I think it's never been any more front and center and obvious than with Trump involved. But yes, that goes on continually, and that's very unfortunate. Very unfortunate. Again, I voted for Trump in knowing full well that as a person, I think he's a dick. I always have. Being a New Yorker, again, you're really familiar with Donald Trump from many years back, and I've always thought he was an egomaniacal douche. but I have to base my vote on policy. Chrome says, I don't trust DeSantis. He kind of feels like populism to me. I feel like if he ran for president one, he'd pivot on a lot of what he says. We'll see in a few years, I guess, but keep a close eye on him. Yeah, everything you're saying is entirely possible, Chrome. I'm not, don't get me wrong, I'm not a DeSantis fan. Of the potential Republican candidates, probably be Nikki Haley so far for me. But what I mean by holding up DeSantis in the conversation we're having is just that he has the basic same thought processes, the basic same platitudes as Trump, but he's able to do it without that same level of obnoxiousness. Meh, somewhat true. Willie says we don't hand over power, they take it. Yes and no, Willie, but when you think about it this way too, look at how many people you have in this country right now who are fully supporting the idea of giving the government extensive amounts more power over you. If you hand over, like on single payer healthcare, if you let the government be the administrator for the federal government for everybody's health care, holy shit. They have got you squeezed then. And then you have people that want the things like this UBI. Now, whether or not you're going to have enough money coming in to feed your family is going to be entirely dependent on the federal government. Really? People think that's a good idea? That just stuns me. Yeah, Dan Crenshaw, Patrick says Dan Crenshaw seems cool. Yeah, I like Dan. I don't know quite as much about him as I do Nikki. But as we get closer to, the presidential election season of 2024, of course, we'll learn lots more. But yeah, DeSantis, I don't have specific issues with DeSantis. I guess kind of like what Chrome says, it's just in the way that he strikes me initially. I don't think there's a lot of trust there. Whereas at least as far as the way they strike me as human beings, there would be more trust initially for me in Crenshaw and Nikki Haley. Gabe says, what's the difference between COVID and politics? Politics doesn't end after 2 weeks. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Chrome meant trademark by that TM. I meant populism trademark. It feels like a corporate, slightly disingenuous version to me. Yeah, it's tough to say, Chrome. He could be a really legitimate, upfront guy who just comes across poorly. The only reason I say that is I have a local politician here who is also a personal friend of mine. He's a Democrat, who I have a lot of admiration and respect for. But when you first get to know him, he always strikes you as such a used car salesman. And it's not his fault, because that's not who the guy is at all. It's just his personality. So I'm always willing to leave a door open a little bit, I guess, because of that, because I know somebody like that. Yeah, I saw that, Arthur. He says, oh yeah, Yang left the Democrats. Not super surprised, to be honest with you, after the poor showing in the run for mayor of New York and everything. Nah, I'm not really surprised. Dragon says, I'll be honest, I'm just tired of really old people in office. I would rather someone much younger. See, I can't get quite that general, Dragon. I have zero issue with younger people being in office. None. But I can't go so far as to say that, because there's a lot of young people who are holding office, AOC, who I would fight with the last fiber of my being to not allow be in any position of any more authority than they have now. So that's the only reason I can't. Again, I have no issue. I would love to see somebody younger with a lot of great ideas who would be around for a long time to help implement those ideas. But I can't ageism any of it, because it's too dependent on the individuals. Chrome says, "Oh, did Yang feed too many constituents his whipped cream for them?" Maxon says Biden is only awake when ice cream or kids are involved. Oh. Patrick says, "God help us if she becomes president." I don't think that could happen anytime soon, Patrick. I really think, and I think you're starting to see a little bit of it here. If you look at the elections nationwide, okay, even in 2020, when you had that blue wave, if you look at those numbers, the Democrats who won were not extreme left. They were very centrist. There's only been a few, and people like AOC who are from a small voting bloc in New York who feel, who would embrace socialism. By and large, those ideas have been rejected. Biden absolutely destroyed Bernie once it became a one-on-one. Elizabeth Warren was absolutely blown out of the water in the Democratic primary. And the elections that were won for the House and Senate, if you look down the list, they're almost entirely centrist or more centered Democrats. Big Green says, wasn't Obama young, or was this a case of looking younger than he actually is? He was young when he was president, Big Green. I think Obama and I are the same age, I believe, or within a year of each other. So he first won in 2008, right? So he was probably late 40s when he won, mid to late 40s. That's youngish, certainly. Imagine Kamala Harris being president. Yikes. Well, that's the thing, Gabe. The Democrats kind of really put themselves in a... he is 60. Wolverine, that's what I thought. He's the same age as me. The Democrats really put themselves in a bad position with her because her poll numbers are always substantially worse than Biden's. But I don't understand how they didn't see that coming. When he selected her as his running mate, she was polling at 3% in the primaries in her own party. I've never understood that selection. It was a horrible, horrible VP pick from a political perspective. Chrome says, AOC is an incredible story of how good marketing and social media use can win an election. True. She was a puppet for Sink, dude who's in favor of bestiality, and she kicked him aside. Yeah, Sink's a goof. Anyway, Chrome, you see him this week where he's going to fight Joe Sink, that tweet that Sink put out regarding Joe Rogan was one of the biggest bitch moves I've ever seen. All at once, he protected himself from having to actually get beat up because he's like, well, what do you think he's going to do? Is he going to hit me? He can't do that. It's illegal. But I'll tell you, if he did, I've been in fights. I would end him. It's like, regardless of anything else, Joe Rogan would beat the living fuck out of you, dude, before you even knew what had happened. Dragon says, with AOC, just listening to her talk tells you what the C stands for. All right, guys. Unfortunately, I have to cut this one short. I meant to tell you guys this at the beginning. This is the first day I'm able to go back out again because I did my test and it came back positive, and I've been 11 days since symptoms started. So I have a bunch of stuff I got to get done this afternoon, starting at 2, and it's about a 10-minute drive. So I gotta get my butt going. Now that I'm on the downside of COVID and everything seems to be working out, the streams will be much more reliable again. Everything will be coming back. The streams will be longer. They'll be more regular. Longer, more regular. Yeah, I wish longer. But until then, sticky stuff is back. There's not much COVID. Well, there's none, according to my test. Not much COVID left into it, which makes it more boring. But still, it's some, it's some okay sticky stuff for Tuesday. Is it kind of on the mess side? Yeah. But it beats what we did on the weekend, which was none. So some sticky stuff is better than no sticky stuff. Pampu, pampu. Sticky stuff for you. 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 Kind of meh, but still, as basically it tells the story of my life, better than nothing. Cuzzle bang, okay? Flashlight like Buggy. And as always, most importantly, it's not better than nothing. It's better than everything. Goosh, 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 goosh. Ah.